Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever part of the world and whatever time zone you're joining us from. Welcome. Welcome to the 2022 edition of the Black Consciousness Festival, where we're focusing on healing and reconnection. The Black Consciousness Festival is a global platform that connects people of African descent with each other by sharing and encouraging exchange through information, traditions, histories, intentions, traumas, celebrations, legacies, stories connecting to pride, power, and practice. Our inaugural year was in 2020, where we curated a month of conversations and activities around topics of Black consciousness. In 2021, we had a few events: a youth festival, a weekend of conversations on reparations, and in November, conversations on shift, as we explored the many ways in which we, as people of African descent, shared and rebirthed elements of ourselves. The recordings of all these conversations are available on our website, theblackconsciousnessfestival.com, and our YouTube channel. As you listen to the conversations, we encourage you to be kind to yourself. Pause, breathe consciously, move, and appreciate all that you are. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. Enjoy!
And welcome to this conversation on food and healing as we continue our 2022 edition of the Black Consciousness Festival. It is so good to see and have all of you here this morning with us. And Franca, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for being here. And I know we are in good hands with you leading this conversation. So I hand you over to Franca. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. And wherever you are in the world, wherever you are looking at us from, thank you for joining us for this hopefully exciting conversation. You know, we are talking about food as healing. We're talking about the fact that the kitchen is where the heartbeat of the home is. I want to introduce to you my fellow panelists, Simone Edwin, Chef Simone Edwin, and Shanice. Shanice, I didn't get your last name though.
Smith.
Right, Shanice Smith, who's a visual artist who's currently working on food projects. Now, let's start with the topic at hand. And we're going to say food is healing. And I believe food is healing. And actually, before this panel, I picked up a book that my mother owned. It's called Treatments and Cures with Local Herbs by Albertina Pavey. And the reason I picked this up is because Mrs. Pavey's work has been heavily researched and she's kind of popular among the circle of people who are very much into understanding our local cures. For example, like Wander the World, Zeba Peak, things that you'll hear about when you're sick. But she also talks about how to use these things naturally in our food every day. And I just wanted to start off with that, just to say that within our own backyards, within our own very accessible spaces, we have a lot of elements that we can use for our own healing and lifestyle. And I just wanted to ask, let me start with you, Simone, you're a chef. How do you integrate what is local to us in your menus and in your daily life to heal and to enrich?
Okay, so I look at it twofold. Obviously using direct ingredients that you can source locally. I believe in community and in sharing what we grow here. It is the smartest way, I think, to approach food locally in terms of cost effectiveness. So I take it on that approach first, trying to get in contact with people who, because I think all of us know a farmer who does something on a large scale that you can definitely incorporate. I am a big herbalist. I love to use herbs because we don't understand the secret properties that we have right at our fingertips. So a lot of the foreign, I would say, items, because I have a fairly upscale menu, where I would definitely try to infuse our local twist on things. So you're gonna get the name of this item that is, let's say, take for instance like a bruschetta. So I might, instead of using basil, I will infuse other types of herbs that we can get locally. But you also have people who grow or are starting to grow um, herbs of a foreign nature down here, and they do an excellent job at it. The second tier to that, I think, which I definitely think a lot of people miss as well, is that healing is not only from the actual item, but it is in that community setting where you eat together with people and you just feel good. I can't remember a single time when I was down and, let's say, a friend said, hey, come over, let's, knock a glass or eat something, and it didn't feel good inside. So I think it's like a two-tier thing in terms of healing. But that is how I would infuse or try to do that within my line of work.
Fantastic. And Shanice, what is your take on it? Your take on food
For
as healing?
me personally, and the projects I've been working on, so it's kind of have two sides. Well, the second part I'm now exploring. So I've been looking at food as the actual food, the actual dish as a form of healing coming together. And just as Simone mentioned, sitting and having a meal together and sharing and just bonding. It started for me in 2019 when I was at a residency in Vermont Studio Center in Vermont. And the food wasn't what I expected. And I started cooking. And my year group had the most people of color. So we would just come together and automatically start cooking and sharing. Like no one had to tell, okay, well, I cook today, you cook tomorrow. It was just automatic. And I started to realize this is a reoccurring theme with people, Caribbean people and people of the diaspora, that we just automatically cook. Always, anytime we come together, somebody gonna be cooking or somebody brings food to share. And there's this sense of camaraderie, yeah, where everybody is just feel good. So that's what I've been looking at in my project, coming together and sharing meals and working around themes. The other side that I've recently started kind of looking at, because I live with my grandmother and my grandmother, the other one who's in New York. So both my maternal and paternal grandmothers are both alive, and how I've been now starting to pay attention at how they've been using herbs, natural herbs, indigenous to Trinidad, for spiritual and healing properties. So that was something I didn't consider before, and now started to like interested in it and try to explore it with both of them, actually bring them into my projects and see how I could expand and explore that and share it on a community based level with other people and see how it could be connected with different groupings of people of the diaspora.
So you live in the States, and I guess you
No,
would have
no, I
seen.
live in Trinidad. It's just
Okay, you
Seattle.
travel.
I was on a project. Yeah.
Okay, cool. But in your journeys abroad, you probably would have realized that, it is very similar in with people of color, be they indigenous, be they African oriented. There is something that runs among people of color. I've seen my Iranian friends, for example, in the UK, they always have a similar thing. They have their secret herbs or the things that they put into their food that they attribute with um, properties of healing, properties of, I mean, of course, basically fragrance, taste, enhancement, and all this kind of thing. How do you guys feel we are doing as a nation in understanding and appreciating what we have as our own?
I feel like people are kind of now, like, to some extent it was always there, but I kind of feel like people are now rediscovering it in a sense. And there's a push for eating local and producing more local food to consume. That has been a gripe of mine, especially with the please nobody come from it, like the vegan community, where why are we importing all these vegan goods? We have a very large Rastafarian community that has been here forever. They've been saying eat local, eat indigenous, eat things that grow out of the ground here. Why are we importing all these things that are not natural to us?
You want to call a couple of the things that you find kind of like your pet peeves?
I feel like I don't. For me, it's not really like pet peeves. I just look at things and it's like, why are we importing this? Why? So you look at things like the kale chips and all these things, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
we have food here locally growing. Of our dishes, when you look at it, pay attention, it is vegetarian. It is natural. Why are we importing all these strange things? And I feel like that also kind of has strange effects on the body. I don't know if it has to be back explained, but I feel like because it's a different climate, that
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, my pet peeve is chia seeds. But
And then the other thing about that is that we are, like when the Western world discovers this new power food and everybody starts hunting it down.
On the
What about the
bandwagon.
indigenous? Yeah, what about the indigenous communities who have been growing these things for how many
mm-hmm,
ever decades, who now
mm-hmm,
have to go into hyperdrive to produce this to export,
Yeah.
and they are suffering. And the land is also suffering because of the overpopulation. So I'm just
mm-hmm.
like, why? What's happening?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think my food would definitely be avocados. For the life of me, I could not understand how one segment of marketing could be so influential and powerful in the Western world.
Mm-hmm,
And I'm sitting here because I mean, this was like maybe, let's say avocados was widely discovered as, the superfood in like 10 years, say 10 years ago. And I'm sitting here and remembering avocados falling on my grandmother had this huge tree in her backyard, to the point where you get sick and fed up eating avocados when you were young, and then all of a sudden it's this miracle food with all these fatty acids that are good for you. And it's like, yeah, we've been doing these things. But I definitely think there is, as Shani said, there is a stronger surge of Black consciousness in what we eat. And I
mm-hmm.
don't. It may be a bit of influence in the Western world, and us now saying, well, now we've been doing it. So I think we have a stronger voice now in saying we have these things here, and a lot of people are pushing more for it now. But I definitely think, in terms of the wider scale of the Caribbean, I definitely think we need to be seen more and heard more, because I recently went on a trip to Jamaica and meeting these other chefs. And previously to that, I went on another trip to Santo Domingo this year, and just the environment that the chefs that are around, and seeing food cultures in the different islands, though they are different, it's the same across the board, and it's really lovely to see that we are doing local things in our respective countries. And but I think on the wider scale, the Caribbean, we just need to have that voice, because we have the gems here. It's just a matter of getting it out there in the right manner, and to the right people.
I also
Yeah,
feel like it's a sense of, sorry to cut you. I also feel
no
like it's a
problem.
sense of rediscovering for a lot of people because, so I have a small collective. It's called Kusume Collective, and we've been looking at food as a medium for social themed projects. So it's two Trinidadians, myself, Joshua Cabral, and a Bayesian artist curator, Catherine Kennedy. And we had a discussion with a friend who's in a how could we collaborate? And she was saying it's a whole and trying to find out how to work with things, how to grow things because their climate is very arid and a lot of people are not too sure how to grow things. So
Mm-hmm.
they're rediscovering that and they don't really have help from the government. So it's all played by ear and experiment and try to figure that out. And it made me realize, oh damn, like I know here there's always some program the industry is running. You get free
Correct.
seats ever so often, all these little things. And I've always seen, okay, all the other Caribbean islands are like that, even though in Aruba, but I never knew like it was that bad. And they're now trying to discover eating indigenous and gathering um, more indigenous food and all these little things. So I found that very interesting, and we're trying to figure out how we could collaborate and do and
Yeah, I think we take it for granted how what we have here. There are so many programs available. I remember one year I visited Nutrien, which is the gas producing, and they actually ran courses on how to plant, how to set up your farm, how to do all these kind of things. And I went out of curiosity more than anything else, and I was really amazed at the kind of work that they were doing. And at the time, they also had their own polytunnels, and they were growing different things. And I that was the first time I understood the difference in pawpaws. You know, the red lady pawpaw versus the other kinds of pawpaws that we grow here. And I think red lady is the predominant variety that we have here now. Yeah, and it is very sweet, and it has that kind of, you know, when you say a color and you taste the color, I think a red lady pawpaw really does taste orange as opposed to an orange. If you understand where I'm coming from? For me, yeah, and you know, you talked about something there where it comes to people discovering. I have a challenge within our community where I think we in love with social media. We are very good at it, but my challenge is that too much of the stuff that comes on social media is very disposable and junkish, and I don't have any qualms in saying it. If I see, I mean, even recently, you know, I was glad to see Mark Wiens, who is a renowned travel blogger, come in here. But if you look at the food that he was promoting, except for the time he went to the Port of Spain market, everything else was basically not healthy. No. And and I did wonder, maybe there's more to come, but I did wonder whether they were going to do things that had to do with the way that our food is produced and the kind of healthy stuff that we can have. I know that now you mentioned kale chips. I think there are people who are making kale chips here. We grow a lot of kale here. We grow a lot of kale
and in the backyard.
Yeah, and even things like mushrooms, which are, I love mushrooms. I see that we're having that kind of
yeah, I've seen some people started producing mushrooms.
There's a guy that's in San Juan, and he actually grows, I think, and he is starting to do the fluted mushrooms as well. So
yes. Yeah. So what do you think? Well, I mean, who do you think we need to talk to? Who do you think needs to get involved? And how should we do it to really spread the fact that we have our own stuff here? I mean, I go to the market practically every week, and so I know that tomatoes are $20 a pound and will continue to be that price for a while because of the weather. That I barely go to the supermarket to buy anything that is market oriented. But you know, who do you think we need to talk to, and what kind of programs would you think we would need to introduce, maybe at the very basic level of primary school, so that people would understand, you know, you eat the food that's closest to you, you eat the food that's produced locally. And you know, I kind of include CARICOM as local, because there are times when you go to the central market and some of the most beautiful produce comes from CARICOM. And you know, we also export to CARICOM. I can't talk enough about the beauty of the soursop from Grenada and St. Vincent. But I mean, what do you think we need to do, and how should we do it?
I think it definitely starts with us who are in it every day. I think that word, it's my word for the year, I think, is collaboration. A lot of us are trying to do it on our own, and we cannot. I think in terms of the professional side of being chefs, I think a lot of us need to understand that our egos, this is bigger than us. This is, for it to survive, it needs to be bigger than us, and we need to come to that realization quickly and kind of put our egos to the side. So it's, you know, we are having discussions like this with you know, people of the diaspora and who are in it. It definitely needs to be a little bit more taken more seriously. And I think definitely that connection with farmers, people who are in this thing, who have the knowledge, even your grandparents sitting and having a conversation with older folks to see what was done in the past and linking what we do now, is going to be of great benefit to us just to have discussion, because unless you talk sometimes, you may not know that somebody has this wealth of information to give you. If you don't, just approach them and say, hey, just ask a question, so it definitely needs to start with us. In terms of the programs that I think that needs to be more centralized, definitely food agriculture. The one thing that I always admired with Michelle Obama is that she was heavily driven on starting it from young. She went to those schools and had that whole eating what you grow and not understanding it. It's like a deeper respect I think you have for food when you understand what it takes to plant something, what it takes to nurture and care for that plant to the point of harvesting. I remember I did agricultural science in school, and people did not understand the life of me why I was doing that. Like they thought I should have done business subjects and this and that, and it was like there was just a thing that I had in my heart that said, get your hands in the soil and understand the deeper meaning behind what you put into your body. So I think if you start from young with those programs with kids in the schools, especially, I mean, it's only natural that if you get someone young invested in it from that age, it's only natural that it's going to progress as they get older, and then they can start to implement things. And you're going to have a wildfire spread. And once you get your hands on kids that, and do things with them, show them things that they may not have been otherwise exposed to, it only makes sense to go that route.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like there are a few things that, I mean, sometimes I always say it's too late to save the adults. Always look to the children. Have to start them young. Because I remember when I was in primary school, we had to grow things. I don't know if primary schools still do that.
I think very
But
few
apart
access.
from the growing the peas, we actually had to grow things. So like lettuce, peas. I remember us growing corn, and I think we actually had an agriculture subject momentarily. So I really feel like there should be an emphasis on that, as well as some of the programs often feel like if you don't ask, you wouldn't know kind of thing, and feel like more advertising. Because I know Centennial, the farm,
Yes, extension. Yeah.
they usually have agricultural programs, but you don't hear about it often. It's something you
until
have to
until
seek
it's
out.
finished. It's done
Yeah,
and then
you
you
have
hear about
to,
it.
or it almost to the end. It's something you have to seek out. Like if it is you're not actively interested in trying to find out about this thing,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to learn. You're not going to know it existed. So I feel like there should be more advertising around these programs. Um, Apart from that, just yeah, advertising these programs because I like something that kind of started me in all this is that I remember my mother grew up in the planet. So she grew up in Paradise Heights and Port Stories in Mova. And she always said when she met my father, he was the one who showed her how to grow things like peas and all these little things because she grew up in these planets and she didn't know where they came from. And
Mm-hmm.
as much as us be like, yeah, but we're living on an island, everything, all this is so natural to us. And then I always think about, oh, mommy, I remember she saying this. And I was like, damn, this is actually how a lot of people, or yeah, a lot of people might be living. Like, yeah, we have social media, but I don't think a lot of people have access to social media or even know what to look for
Yeah, I
in these
think
things.
yeah, I think Franca hit the nail on the head with social. My pet peeve, social media boy. We have the information out there, but the way it's filtered and what we choose to subscribe to is dangerous. Because I
Mhm.
don't think it's out there. You have people doing such great work down here, and they're not having the voice. They don't get the voice. They don't have the platform, and all something the biggest one right now is this influencer and this brand influencer vibe that we're going on, where companies who have the strength to get the information out there, to use certain
Yeah.
people to get the information out there, they choose to go in a different direction. And once you don't have, if you have anything less than 10,000 followers, you are completely ignored. And to me, that is dangerous in terms of a corporate standpoint, where you are pushing your brand because just for followers, but the real engagement is not with those people. It's
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
deeper.
like one of the things I learned is that listen, you might have 5,000 followers and nobody pays attention, no engagement.
Oh,
Where you might have 10 followers and they engage, they ask
correct,
questions, they follow through,
correct.
things like that. And I feel like we really are, oh, wow, how much followers you have? First
Yeah.
thing they ask before they even want to collaborate with you. And that is the wrong approach. Also, I feel like we lack follow through. Like somebody would start
Mhm.
something hot and sweaty, and then it's like, okay, so what happened to this program? There's no follow
Yeah,
through. One thing that I do like is that we have an Agri Expo. I feel like every
that
year it
was
gets a little better
fantastic.
and it's so
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
And I feel like we need more of those.
yeah,
You know, you made a good point there, Shanice. I keep going to your point about your mom growing up in an urban setting or in a setting where she had no real access to land to understand how food grows. And it made me think about the kind of things that are happening in Trinidad and Tobago, where young people are growing food. I know that there's a guy who I don't know if anybody has this in their neighborhood, but there's a guy who comes and he sells whatever he's growing. So a few weeks ago, it was pachoy. And I stopped and I asked him, where do you grow this? And he was explaining to me that, his father has a little piece of land that he's using. And then I understand as well that in places like the Betham and in Lavantil, places you wouldn't expect, places like Gonzales, of course, where there are young farmers doing their thing. Um, they are selling their stuff to the Namdavco market and they're doing their thing. And what we I think we need to look at is how do we engage more young people of a certain age group into agriculture. So you have people like Alpha Senon, for example, who with his Agriman
yeah,
has been doing
Mhm.
that cartoon and that comic for young children, but also to show that okay, you can actually live a life that's crime free, I guess, and that takes you away from the typical pursuits that would get you into trouble, and you can actually be involved in stuff. So I think maybe more more assistance is needed from maybe the corporate sector as well as probably the government, local government particularly, because what I've observed as well, I don't know if you all are like me, but when I drive around, I look at land that's not being used. I look at these empty
Listen,
trucks, right?
one of my
And
gripes is that so many of the land, so much, a lot of the share on the highway headed up are supposed to be carted for agricultural
culture,
purposes. And
yeah.
then when you pass over time, you see these big buildings going up, and I
Hmm.
don't know why. Like food insecurity is a very real thing. Why are we not using the land? Why are we building these big buildings that
Hmm.
messing up the land and drainage system?
yeah.
All
That
these strange
that
things.
was an eye opener for me. I went to Santa Cruz the other day, and my heart sank when I saw that the green market that they had. That I thought that
Yeah,
that's
it's bordered by something
yeah,
new, a
and
development.
it's housing that went up, and I immediately I was like, I mean, this was the one space in the West that I saw potential in that they were actually starting to do something. I thought they were going to expand the market, and then you put a concrete jungle smack dab in the middle of it. So it's like I don't know if we get it. I understand. Yes, housing is a very important. It's a basic need, but I just think that we can go about it in a slightly different way. I don't know what way, but I definitely think more agricultural knowledge needs to be passed on. And as you said, Frank, in terms of that land mass that we have the soil. It's like our soil is good soil to grow on, and it needs to be expanded a lot more. For us to really really understand that we have the gems here. It's just that we need to put in the proper work to to make it blossom.
You
Yep,
know,
those
and
were the two things.
mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say something that one of the other things that interests me is that of late I've been meeting a lot of people who can't cook, and I was talking to somebody the other day who said, look, I can't cook very well, and if and I spend a lot of money on food. So, for example, they work. Okay, this person that I was talking to works in the east, lives in the east, works in town, doesn't really cook much. So, therefore, they are at the mercy of the fast food outlets or the Creole food kiosks near to where they work. how much do we need to pay attention, and how much more do we need to pay attention to actually teaching people how to prepare meals?
I'll let Shani start with this one because I have a lot to say about this.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, Franco would know. It's near and dear to my heart, the industry and education around cooking, around service, just around food. It is a sore point to this day for me because I believe that TTHTI was an excellent place for that training and that development to take place. And having it closed down was, I think, one of the biggest tragedies of the culinary scene in Trinidad in recent times because a lot of people I don't think really understood how much young people were interested in cooking. We literally, the culinary program was always one of the first programs to be oversubscribed every single year. I don't think much marketing needed to be done. I guess yes, marketing in the sense that yeah, hey, this institute exists and this is a viable option for you to go into after secondary school to be formally trained on how to cook, how to in hospitality and tourism and all of these things that I think a lot of secondary children did not know about, which was great. But it was always a culinary program. We had to turn people away at some points, because it was literally a place where people understood or there's a value that was placed on educating yourself on how to cook and how to become a chef or whatever in the industry. And I think that it needs to start back. We have to find a way to get that training, that level of training done, because what I will always pride them for, Dr. Butcher in the days she ran the institute, the level that they attained in terms of collaborating with different universities abroad to bring the level that they know that the international market needed. It was there. A lot of training programs now, what they do is they focus on I teach you how to make this recipe. That's not cooking. Cooking is using your brain, using your heart, is using every single part of your being to get what you need to get on the plate. And it's more about how to utilize those ingredients that we have locally within the diaspora. Cooking techniques is another thing that was highly cherished across at TTHI, because we did not only teach you how to cook international things. I always used to tell my students, if you cannot cook a pot of pilau, you cannot become a chef. Like, you have to learn your food. You have to learn how to use Indian techniques in your food. And it's not just about French cuisine and I want to go and work in an Italian restaurant. No, you can do that locally here, but we're going to train you on how to use your entire body, your entire consciousness to execute what you need to execute. So I think that is something that if we do not pay attention to, you're going to find a lot more, what Franco was saying, a lot more young people falling into that life of fast money, of crime, because they're not seeing, they're not going to, where we would see students taking the time and, they know, here what, this is a 3 to 4 year, sometimes 5 years, depending on what field you go into, to get this, the money will come. We always had this thing. We put in the hard work, the money is going to come. If we don't start to jump back into figuring out how to get an institute back up and running, it's only going to get worse, because you now have people who may be talented, who naturally are inclined to be able to cook and do these things. They're going to just fall into fast money. They go work somewhere where they need to survive. Like, let's be honest. And I think it's necessary. We on the brink of, right on the edge of falling over that precipice if it is we don't grab, as we were saying, those young kids and showing them that this is a viable way of going. Yeah.
I want to say to you as well, Simone, that one of the things that, having lived abroad and having understood the way things operate, one of the things that really fascinates people is food media. And in every country that I know, there is somebody who's known as a celebrity chef. And they're not because they're cooking fancy meals. So, for example, in the UK, there's a woman called Delia Smith. And I think probably about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, Delia came onto the screens of the BBC and she taught people things like how to boil an egg, how to fry an egg. And there are a lot of people, and a lot of things that that we tend to, it seems that in Trinidad and Tobago now, what we have done, we've caught on to the Food Network style. So everything that is featured on television is in the form of a competition that, I mean, you will get ideas from a competition, but I think we need to return to just teaching people. Like, I know the Prime Minister got a lot of licks. Yeah, the Prime Minister got a lot of licks when he asked, do you know how to peel a cassava? Right? And, people thought, oh God, Raleigh, why are you being like that? But if you really think about it, a lot of people don't actually know how to peel a cassava.
No, and they don't understand that buying frozen cassava, your pocket's going to scream, because the more the item,
more processing, yes,
the more you're going to have to pay for it. So while you can stop, every neighborhood, as you were saying, has somebody who grows their stuff, sells their stuff. Instead of you buying the cassava and knowing how to peel it, you would prefer to go buy because it's the easier route to take. But if it's little things that we can consciously start to do, and it's going to make our lives, streamline into something, a little bit more free for us to explore,
Also, I wouldn't lie, like traveling a lot has made me realize Food Network is a lie.
Oh, it is.
Because when you see, listen, the food you see, and I always think of it like bitters. Bitters smell good, but if you taste bitters on it,
just on its own, yeah.
You see the food, and like, oh, this looks nice, and then you get there, and you're like, what's this? What's happening here? Where the things I'm used to? Yeah. But to touch on several things, so one, I feel like we have so much here to offer, and we're not using it. The fruits and vegetables you find here are exotic. I don't want to hear that mud imported strawberry. I fed up hearing that. What does a balata ice cream taste like? Why nobody using these things? I'm tired of seeing that. Stop importing these. I saw Hooters. I can't remember which company they're going to start producing berries in Tobago.
Yes.
And I'm just like, but why though?
But I think for them, let me just speak to that case, because I did some work on some research about that. Like it or not, and the strawberry is ubiquitous, and within the Caribbean, particularly in the tourism sector, and Simon would know this, strawberries are kind of necessary. So
it's needed. Yeah,
it's needed.
I mean, strawberries is just one that I call, but there are lots of like foreign fruits. I'm like, why?
They set up, but they're going to do, to their credit, they're going to do local things as well. Because the guy who set it up, the guy who is running it, he's foreign, but he's lived here for a long time. And he said to me that one of the things that people don't understand is that now that we have the technology, we can grow everything that we thought was hard, we could grow it easily.
Yeah.
So I look forward, and I will be on his case. I told him I'm going to be on his case to see what they're doing with regard to certain of our products, our fruits and veg, that we could actually grow more easily given the technology. But you're right. I remember one time Omadath Maraj, I think he is an agroeconomist. He writes columns in the newspapers, and he said something to me once. He said, we have to remember that if we continue to give our children the taste of things that don't grow here, when they do taste the things that grow here, they're not going to be able to appreciate it. So it is building up a local palate, so to speak.
It's like bananas, like the locally grown ones here. I remember somebody telling me she was so excited. I can't remember which one it was. And her daughter was like, what is this? I don't want this. Where are the bananas you buy in the market? They were the other ones, the one that we import. Like, what? I was like, what? Like the Siki and the silks and all that. Those are nice. Like, those are the natural ones. Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to touch on too, when you mentioned fast food, I personally feel like we have too many fast food MNCs here. like it's scary to me. Why are we importing all these fast food, especially when there's always this discussion about in the Caribbean diabetes and high blood pressure and high
Yeah.
cholesterol
Yeah. Lifestyle
have
diseases.
been on us. Yeah. And I don't understand. I remember, I know Wendy's closed down and then it reopened, and people were like, oh my God, it came back. And I was like, why are you all excited though? Like, I genuinely want to know why you excited about this. How much burger? They all taste the same to me. Like, they're all very processed. And I don't understand. I don't why people are so excited about the constant importing of all these basic fast food places from the US.
I honestly
Mhm.
think what it is, just to tack on to what you're saying, there is I think it's an internal connection that we need to have with food and to treasure what we have in the Caribbean.
Yes.
Um, we have been, I don't want to use this word, but it has been a slow brainwashing of what's in Europe, what's in the States, what's in, other parts of the world is on a higher level than what we have. And I think it's only when the conversation that I have with people who travel is a lot different
Mhm.
than from what I have with people who have not been exposed to, going abroad and actually missing a taste of home. It's only when you don't have it, that's when you have that connection to, oh my gosh, like, but I think it's an internal thing that, and it's a deeper conversation, I think, that we can explore at a later date. We have a disconnect with our own and valuing what we have. Um, and I
And the
don't know.
flavors and the things we use
Yeah,
here are
because
so
when
good.
you go
Yes.
to different places, when you have Europeans coming here, and literally, I have friends who, every single time if they when you're leaving again, you bring in this XYZ, they want our stuff because there's nothing. We have such a unique palette, and we have such unique pairings of food and how we put things together. You can find cilantro and these other things, and you can find it around the world, but it's how we put it together that I think
Yes.
that we need to reconnect and rediscover
Also, I've learned
the beauty of
cilantro
it.
very hard to find.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
correct.
just to go back to the thing about the kitchen and the fact that, we definitely need to start bringing more of our local foods back into the kitchen. Even when it comes not just vegetables, but even things like our fish, our goat. Simon knows that I have a
Yeah,
special
love
thing
that.
for our goat, right? Our goat, our local meat, which is actually quite good. Our local pork.
Yeah,
I mean, all chefs that I know rate local pork. They're not going to be going to get pork that's somewhere. They want local pork, right? Because it's so good. And of course, we know what the animals are fed on. I know that in some cases people will talk about hormones and antibiotics and all that, but I think that our farmers are far more um, scrupulous in some ways. Our livestock farmers are far more scrupulous than what we don't know what we're getting from abroad, quite
And I must say
honestly.
also like the treatment of the animals are nicer here. Like when I
Yes.
watch people talk about, oh my God, I'm not gonna eat meat because I just watched this documentary. I was like, but that is a way where the population
correct.
denser, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really have anything to do with us in the Caribbean. I mean, I understand we import in some of these meats, but the local farmers, people who grow livestock, this is not how they treat their animals. The animal not in
Mhm.
a cage like this whole day every day.
Mhm.
They
Yeah,
get sunlight, they get good food,
but I
and
think, and
just it's
again,
more humane.
is another disconnect because I think people don't. It saddens me to see how people still think of farmers as lesser than, and
Yes.
people don't
Very
Yes.
much
understand farmers
so.
are some of the most brilliant and educated people in our society. If you can figure out how to grow and how to harvest and how to rear, and animal husbandry is a different ball game. And as you're saying, Shanice, we kill animals under certain, I mean, most butchers that I know in Trinidad, they follow the halal way
Mhm.
of cooking of slaughtering. So we don't give farmers and animal rearers enough credit. I still think we have that colonial mentality. Well, it's country people, and they
Yeah,
little strictly, and they resorted to that because they didn't have the book sense to do XYZ. And I think it couldn't be anything further from the truth. And they
which is
need a little
crazy.
bit more respect.
A friend of
Um,
mine, she grew up,
mhm.
her mother used to sell in the market, and she kind of grew up with that sense of shame. And it's only now as she got older and, things are changing, and she, okay, it's a good thing. Because she was my favorite person to go to the market with, because I know I'm not going to get robbed, and she going to pick out the best things.
Correct.
So, guys, I know we have a minute again to wrap. So, I'll give you all a chance, 30 seconds each to just say, what do we need to do to bring healing and food back at the center of our homes?
Collaboration. We have to get together and understand that this is bigger than us. We need to get back, that whole granny. Granny was the one that, everybody would meet up at Granny's house, and your best food memories are from your grandmother, your mother. That's nurturing aspect of food. I think we definitely need to get back there and stay out of the streets, stay away from the fast food, and just love what we have, and it's right there in our homes.
Shanice?
For me, I feel like it's more, well, similar to what Simi said, just community, understanding and sharing with your community, experimenting, trying new things, and rediscovering things we grew up with, things our grandparents used to cook with, used to do. I know a lot of people sometimes, oh, it's so nostalgic, but no, I think we really need to focus on rediscovering some of the techniques they used to use. Yeah, my grandmother grew a ruku tree in the yard, and my sister had COVID. All she cooks now is with ruku. She don't use golden ray anymore. Just ruku with everything. And we from close to Lupino, so we'll see it. But yeah, definitely rediscovering our local cuisine, eating indigenous, and focus on community building efforts with each other.
Fantastic. I am just going to say I co-sign on everything that's been said. And that was an interesting discussion. So you have lots of things to go away and think about if you're following us here. And just to say thank you to Simone and Shanice and to the Black Consciousness Festival for giving us this opportunity to have such a wonderful conversation. And that's it. We will be
Thank you so much.
I'm waiting for Erica to come back and wrap us up.
Yes, so thank you. That was such a stimulating conversation, which I know has to continue because there's so much in there that we need to really get at. So I take away from this community, remembering who we are and connecting, understanding the value in our food and our herbs and what we have in who we are. So thank you again, Franca. Thank you, Shanice. Thank you, Chef Simon. Looking forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.